Guys, welcome back to a brand new video. I'm RexFinance, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different from what we're used to doing on this YouTube channel. In the past, I've given a price target of $100 per share for CleanSpark stock by the end of 2021. Now, about exactly a year ago from today, CleanSpark stock price was in a very similar situation as we're experiencing currently. The share price hit a high of $15 per share, and they did an offering, and shortly thereafter, the markets tanked, and the share price of CleanSpark fell from about $15 per share to $7 or $8 per share. It doesn't take a genius to see that we're experiencing something very similar right now. We raised $200 million after the share price had hit a high of $35 or $40 per share, and then shortly hereafter, the market for small cap growth speculative stocks has tanked. So it's a little unfortunate for existing shareholders, but for people that have wanted to add to their position of this company or even start a position in this company, both of these situations now and a year ago presented a great buying opportunity. Now, a year ago when the share price tanked to about $7, $8 per share, that's when I gave my price target of $30 per share by the end of 2020 for the stock. People were calling me crazy left and right. I went into my comment section. People were calling me crazy. People were hitting the dislike button on that video. But by the end of 2020, we hit that $30 per share. Now, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't have a crystal ball. I could be way off with my prediction for 2021. But the difference between me and these other people that hit the dislike button based on my title of this video alone and leave a hateful comment down below, they don't provide reasoning as to why they believe I am wrong about my price target. So in today's video, I'm going to be explaining in spreadsheet form why I believe CleanSpark realistically could hit $100 per share by the end of the year. Which, by the way, if you guys want access to this spreadsheet, it is in the members-only Discord server under the channel named Spreadsheets. It's only like $10 a month to get access to the Discord server, and you can download the spreadsheet right here. Hit the join button down below if that interests you to get access to the spreadsheet, my buy and sellers, all that stuff, but that's not the point of this video. Before we get into that $100 price target and my reasoning behind it, I want to address what came out in an 8K yesterday. The board of directors, the compensation committee, allowed a bonus to Lori Love, Zachary Bradford, and Matthew Schultz. The millions of dollars that the company issued as bonus to their management team has ticked off some investors. And I completely understand the share price has been going down, all of this stuff. But personally, I believe these bonuses are entirely warranted. Just to put this into perspective, when I first started looking into this company, the company had less than a 20 million market cap on it. In under 12 months, this management team has taken the market cap from less than $20 million to over $1 billion at one point in time. The share price has accumulated and appreciated 1,200% over the last 12 months. In my opinion, even though the share price has been going down, these bonuses were earned by this management team. And something I'm going to say right now might surprise some of you. You might disagree with it. But for as long as I've known this management team and what I know about them, they're probably going to turn around some of these millions of dollars and buy shares of the stock on the open market using this bonus money. I would not be surprised whatsoever to see that in the future. Also, just because the share price has been going down, that shouldn't mean that the management team doesn't deserve these bonuses. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that most of you guys that disagree with these bonuses wouldn't care a nitwit about these bonuses if the share price was at an all-time high right now. The share price should not dictate your feelings about the company or the management team. Now, those comments correspond to what we heard a year ago and we're hearing currently about the share price. People are saying this stock sucks. This company's a scam. This company sucks. This management team is only in it to get rich. All of these comments were the exact same comments I was hearing almost exactly a year ago from today. So even though back then when I gave my $30 price target, people were calling me crazy and disliking my video, I'm not going to back off of my $100 price target because I firmly believe that this is going to happen. So now I'm going to do my best to explain to you why I believe this to be reasonable. Before we get into this, if you guys wouldn't mind, hit that like button down below. We've kind of been slacking the last couple of videos, but I know I can count on the Sparky gang to get me to 1,000 likes for this video. So just to give a little bit of clarity to this spreadsheet, on the left side here, we have the different revenue streams that CleanSpark currently has. So obviously this isn't accounting for any of the additional revenue streams that might come throughout the year from acquisitions that CleanSpark makes. What this does account for is a little bit of growth in each of these revenue streams, corresponding to what they did in 2020 and the first quarter of 2021. To start things off, the Bitcoin mining revenue is obviously going to be bigger than all the other revenue streams. And if you guys downloaded this spreadsheet, you can actually double click on any of these tan boxes and change these numbers. So if you don't agree with my revenue numbers for different business segments, you can kind of play around and change those numbers. If you don't believe we're going to have a weighted average of $100,000 per Bitcoin mined and 5 Bitcoin mined per day, you can change these numbers. But let's get back to the Bitcoin mining revenue. To calculate this $182 million, we took a weighted average of $100,000 per Bitcoin mined times 5 Bitcoin mined per day on average times 365 days out of the year, because cryptocurrencies, mining, all of that is happening 365 days out of the year, 24 hours out of the day, 7 days a week. And we know that CleanSpark has plans to actually get to 6 to 10 Bitcoin mined per day by the end of the year. So you can change these numbers, but I think 5 is probably going to be fair because we're going to have several months before we get to that 6 to 10 Bitcoin mined per day where we're averaging lower than that. But I believe Bitcoin prices are going to continue to appreciate. So on average, our weighted average again, so when we're mining the most Bitcoin, I believe we're going to be closer to 100,000 or higher than we will be to 30,000 or 40,000. But if you don't agree with my $100,000 per Bitcoin mined on average, you can change this number to, let's say, $70,000 on average. And that will go ahead and change the total amount of revenue and the implied market cap, which gives you the implied share price. So obviously the share price dropped quite a bit when we changed that price number. And you're going to see in this spreadsheet, we have a lot of leeway with these numbers and things we can change if some things don't go according to plan and other things exceed our expectations. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and move this back to $100,000 per Bitcoin mined on average. Again, we might even average higher than that or lower. We could average higher than 5 Bitcoin mined per day or lower than that. So these numbers, obviously, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't know anything that you guys don't know. These are just my estimates based on what we've done in the past and the knowledge we have now according to the press releases. So now let's go ahead and move to the grid fabric revenue stream. This one is a little bit more difficult to estimate how much revenue they're going to bring in 2021. According to Google, they did about $2.3 million in revenue in 2019. So I think in 2021, $3 million is going to be on the low end of this because the business is a growing business. It's currently profitable. Otherwise, CleanSpark would not have acquired this business. So I believe my $3 million could be more on the low end here. This could probably be more like $5 million, $6 million. It's really difficult to tell according to the 10K. I've looked through all of that stuff. It's just impossible to tell how much money Grid Fabric is going to bring into the overall business. But as we move on to Solar Watt Solutions, which is CleanSpark's most recent acquisition, I myself have been shocked at how many revenues this company can bring into the overall company. Within a month of the acquisition, Solar Watt brought in about $2 million in revenue. And according to my research, they did this in a month that would be cyclically slow, meaning as the months go on to the summer months and the warmer months of the year, this $2 million a month is probably going to be much higher. But for now, we're going to leave it at $2 million per month on average for 12 months of 2021, which will give us $24 million in revenue. Again, if you want to mess with this, you can double click and change this number if you don't agree with me. But now let's move on to the hardware sales. This is your automatic transfer switches, your switch gear, basically your power box that they sell through Pioneer Critical Power, which was one of their first acquisitions. Obviously, with hardware sales, the revenue numbers are going to be higher, but the margin is going to be lower. So the overall profitability of this business segment is lower. But if we're just looking at the revenue, according to the numbers of 2020 and how they've grown over time, and according to Q1 results that we got from CleanSpark, I believe $16 million in hardware sales is also a pretty reasonable estimate. Moving on to the software, obviously this does not include the Bitcoin mining revenue, Grid Fabric, or Solar Watt Solutions. This just includes the revenue that CleanSpark gets from their Impulse offering and their MVSO offering. Obviously, this number will be much higher if CleanSpark rolls out this mVolt, which is their new residential offering. That's going to be primarily software-based revenues. So my $600,000 estimate here will be much higher if the mVolt does get deployed and is an active product that consumers can purchase. But for now, I'm just going to estimate that Impulse and MVSO are going to bring in about $600,000 in revenue for the company. Moving on to their last revenue stream, we have P2K Labs, which isn't necessarily a growing business. It is a profit center for the company, but over the years, P2K Labs' revenue really hasn't grown much. So I think I only added about $50,000 of revenue for P2K Labs for 2021. Maybe they do more than that, maybe they do less than that, but again, we have a lot of leeway in these numbers, where if we're low on one or high on another estimate, we really can still be pretty accurate with our estimations here. So on the right side here, we have the amount of cash that I have calculated. It was a gruesome process. I do not recommend anybody do it. The amount of cash we have left on the balance sheet currently, according to the recent offering, and the amount of cash we had on the balance sheet before the offering, and all of the miners purchased, I've deducted that cost from this total. So according to my estimations, we have about $121 million of cash left on the balance sheet. This does not account for the continuous Bitcoin mining revenue or the other accretive subsidiaries that CleanSpark has, because obviously those business segments are going to bring in consistent revenues. So this number is probably a little bit higher. I also calculated that we have about $117 million in payables that we have to pay in cash as the year progresses for these miners that we have purchased. So if you take the $121 million we have on the balance sheet currently, minus the amount of payables, we get about $4 million left on the balance sheet. But that will be down the road as we pay off these payables, and it doesn't account for the continuous Bitcoin mining revenue, all that stuff. So for now, I took this cash number of $121 million in cash and added it to the implied market cap. How we got the implied market cap is by taking our total amount of estimated revenues and multiplied it by a revenue multiple of 10. Now, I understand using a revenue multiple for a valuation metric is pretty lazy, but given the fact that CleanSpark is debt-free and is currently profitable under my estimation, this will give a pretty accurate representation of what I am seeing and why I believe the company will hit $100 per share. So at a revenue multiple of 10, which is low for the industry, by the way, Tesla is trading at a 23 times revenue multiple, and Riot Blockchain is trading at about a 400 times revenue multiple. So if we trade closer to what most growth stocks in Tesla are trading at, around 20 as a revenue multiple, all of a sudden our share price goes from $70 to $137 just by increasing that revenue multiple to what is common for most growth stocks out there. Obviously, a lot of this is going to depend on what the overall market does for growth and speculative companies. Over the past month, it's been a little bit rough, but I think we're probably close to our bottom where we're going to start bouncing back up in these growth and speculative stocks. Now, just for fun, because CleanSpark is mining just as much Bitcoin as Marathon is currently, and Marathon's revenue multiple is about 400, just like Riot Blockchain's is, let's increase this revenue multiple to, let's just even say 350. All of a sudden, the share price goes to $2,200 per share. The numbers I'm giving you now are dependent on this revenue multiple, but let's go ahead and go back to a low revenue multiple of 10 here. So the share price will reset to $70 per share right here. But now what we can do is change the average price per Bitcoin mine. Let's just say Bitcoin prices absolutely take off as the summer months approach. Let's say we average more like, I don't know, let's say $110,000 per Bitcoin mine. All of a sudden, the share price goes up $6 per share. Now let's go ahead and say I'm low on this grid fabric estimate. Let's say instead of 3 million, we do 5 million in grid fabric revenue. Okay, there's that. Let's go ahead and say SolarWatt Solutions, I'm also low. Let's increase this to 30 million instead of 24 million. You can see our share price is continuing to increase as we increase these different revenue numbers. As we change the numbers these other business segments bring in, it's not making as much of an impact as the Bitcoin mining is. So let's go ahead and change SolarWatt Solutions back to $24 million. Let's go ahead and change Grid Fabric back to $3 million. So on our low end of these estimates again. But now let's change the average Bitcoin mined to $120,000 per Bitcoin mined. Now we're getting to $81 per share. Now let's say CleanSpark actually averages 6 Bitcoin mined per day instead of 5. We're at $94 per share. Let's go ahead and reset the amount of Bitcoin mined to 100,000 on average. But instead, let's say CleanSpark increases its production much faster than anticipated, and we actually average 8 Bitcoin mined per day in 2021. We get a share price of over $100 per share again. And these numbers, just to reiterate, don't account for other revenue streams that will come in as CleanSpark acquires new businesses. So although I might be called crazy in the comment section down below, I might get dislikes on this video, I am very confident my price target for $100 per share by the end of 2021. I will not waver on that. You guys can come back here at the end of the year and either congratulate me or give me a bunch of crap if I am way off. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, but these are just the numbers I'm seeing right now and why I believe $100 per share could be very, very likely. Obviously, a lot depends on the market, so the revenue multiple is what we really need to pay attention to. If we average a revenue multiple of 20 again, and let's say we're more on the high end of Bitcoin mined per day on average, all of a sudden we have a $200 share price. But again, a lot depends on that revenue multiple. So if this video was helpful to you, I would really appreciate you hitting that like button down below. Also comment how many shares of CleanSpark you own or plan on adding to your position as time goes on. With that, have a great rest of your day. I'll be back with a brand new video next week. Peace out.